You ever purchase a game, feel like you made a mistake, make an entire Let's Play series on another channel of the game's online mode where you try to figure out the point of the game and your friend fails to explain things, and then you dwell on that for 3 years, and then you dwell on the game as a separate experience and how it's the third best-selling game of all time and you just don't understand how or why? Grand Theft Auto 5. I'd never actually played a Grand Theft Auto game before 2017, with one exception. GTA 2 was a game that I played exactly once. My older brother got a PlayStation 1 dirt cheap in like 2002, and that was like one of the 6 games he owned. And it was the only one that wasn't a racing game. All I knew about the game, and all I can explain about the game right now, is that it's a top-down game where you shoot guns and drive cars, and you can like mount a turret seat to an ice cream truck. I'm gonna read the plot real fast online. Hopefully, that'll help me kind of figure out what... I don't think that's gonna help. GTA 2 is a neo-noir retro future game in which Claude Speed is working to tear up gangs and corporations that are ruining Anywhere USA. None of the other games are set in that time period or that place, so I'm going in completely blind. The Grand Theft Auto games are third person, but the third person camera kind of disorients me. I'd seen some friends play and I just got motion sick watching it. But luckily, the 8th Grand Theft Auto 5, has a first person mode, which you might have known if you watched our series on Source Code. And if you did, I'm sorry. That was a series of mostly just me walking around, taking the train, trying to sell abandoned cars for pocket change, and then Steve would barrel in and kill me by crashing his car into something. It's 5 episodes of... It's literally 5 episodes of literally nothing. I still don't know what's in the game aside from you drive, you shoot, you engage in legally gray real-world gambling, you play tennis and golf, you trade stocks, you know, everything. But I literally don't know how it all staples together. So I've been doing a dumb thing. Today I installed the game again to play it in single player. And I'm playing the single player entirely in first person. I've played the tutorial mission twice and wasn't particularly interested in the game at the time, and the tutorial did a bad job at getting me interested. I pressed on 3.5 years later to start playing Franklin's missions, and after figuring out that you can enable iron sights in the menus, I was on my way to playing the rest of the game, hopefully. The goal is every day I'm going to play a bit and then check back in, and hopefully by the time it's all said and done, I'll have beaten the game. Also, I should mention that because of the sheer volume of licensed music and gratuitous language and the drugs and the strippers, I'm a bit hesitant to record much of it, so I'll just I guess I'll just vlog it, you know? The actual gunplay in first person works better than I anticipated it to. The aiming is precise, the weapons are rather detailed for a series not used to this angle, although they're not great. You only load 1 shotgun shell, but it's fine. I was actually amazed to find that the game's irons are actually rather well zeroed. This isn't just some first-person mod for a third-person game where nothing's usable. It's actually rather well done. I probably wouldn't have died at the end of our GTA Online series if I knew you could enable irons. Otherwise, you just have to use this weird zoom-in feature. It doesn't look good and it's not helpful. Driving, though, is an entirely different story, one in which immersion was squarely gotten in the way of the gameplay. You're physically in the seat looking over the wheel and the dashboard. In real life, this is fine because you have peripheral vision. You know, you can see here, you can see here. You don't have that when you're looking at a screen. I found that driving a motorcycle or a bicycle is far easier than a car just because of what field of vision I do have isn't obscured by non-functional mirrors and columns and a dashboard, but whatever. Here in the early stages of the game, I'm tasked with a mission in which I drive a tow truck to pick up an abandoned vehicle and bring it to a lot. This task was made infinitely harder than it had to be because I cannot actually watch myself back the truck up. You can look out the back window, but your view snaps forward. I just broke the autofocus. Okay, there it goes. If you look out the back window and then you press the gas or the brake, your view snaps forwards, so you're not looking out that back window anymore. I can't actually watch myself back the truck up. This is intended so, you can sneak a quick glance at a side window or something when you're driving quickly through the city and then bring yourself back to the front view so you don't crash. But when you have a mission about backing a vehicle in, it is way less helpful. That might be an option I could just set. But I don't intend to actually play more of these missions. But it's fine. Also here, I began to notice that the actual game really doesn't like you actually following traffic rules. I get it, it's a game actively trying to prod the player into performing dangerous actions, but often you really don't get any opportunity or, well, any reason to speed through a red light. And from what I've seen, the game seems to actively work towards giving the player as many red lights as possible. And NPCs behind a parked player will honk their horn even if the player is sat behind another NPC waiting for the light to turn green. I can't confirm that that's actually how the game actually works, but that's how it appears to work, and it would make sense to skew the player towards getting frustrated with traffic and thus cause them to commit sins. But I didn't actually do a whole lot of research about the best-selling non-mobile ported game ever, so that might just be a whole lot of BS. Also, at this point, I need to stress that these might be some of the most frustrating FPS controls I've seen. I get it, GTA is not meant to be played entirely in first person, but bear with me. In missions with multiple characters, you have one very early on with like the dog. You hold Alt to switch between those characters. You also do that in the tutorial. Each character also has what's effectively an ultimate or a special ability. Those are activated by pressing Caps Lock. The closest thing to a quest menu you have is going to the pause map and sliding around it to look for possible waypoints, which will be marked with the initial of the main character in said quest. So, on a Franklin mission, you'll have an F, or if it's like, if you have to meet with Lamar, you might have an L. If you have to meet with, there's another character named Lester, he's also got an L. But regardless, it's not really all that helpful, especially as a newcomer. The actual quest design language in GTA is rather atrocious and hard to read for someone more used to Borderlands or the Elder Scrolls. In Borderlands, you know exactly where a potential quest is. It's marked with a big exclamation mark right on the map. You go up to it, and it tells you what you need to do, and it gives you waypoints to every step of the way. Story missions naturally daisy chain into each other, so you always know where you're heading next. When two totally different green icons pop up in GTA, knowing which one's a story mission and which one's a side quest is a pain in the neck. And that's how I ended up doing that tow truck mission. Again, I got over that rather quickly, after I figured out that it was done. But there's still that initial confusion. And I feel like that is going to get in the way of people. I'm saying that like this game is new. No, 80 million people have played this game. But it got in my way a little bit. And it bothered me a little bit. Also, none of these missions actually reward you with anything. I keep pressing the expand button hoping to see, some amount of experience or cash, but instead I find out that I didn't get a gold medal on a mission because I didn't light a trail of gas on fire because I had no reason to light a trail of gas on fire. Honestly, the actual user experience in GTA isn't that good. It doesn't feel like the UI I'd expect from a borderline 100 million seller. There's probably a mod that changes that. I'm probably doing this wrong. Alright, it's time for an exciting adventure into background information. I've only ever seen maybe 50 minutes of GTA Online gameplay that wasn't the stuff we posted to source code, and it was mostly the weirder stuff from Steven Plays. Of all 15 of my Steam friends, only 3 of them have actually sunk a considerable amount of time into GTA 5. A friend of the channel and former host of Studio Limit Break, Lee, he's played 55 hours. My older brother's played 160, all of which was single player. And Source Code co-host, and let's be real, star of the Source Code series, Steve, has over 670 hours plugged into the game. Again, a lot of it seems to be in single player. I've never actually seen any of these 3 people play it aside from when Steve joined me for the series, and I never scoped out gameplay of it from any other source. Mostly because GTA was a series I literally was never interested in. I played the second one because it was available, and it was the only non-racing PS1 game my older brother owned, and the third-person games gave me a headache, so I never really liked watching friends of mine play GTA 4. All of this to say that yes, I am actually as green as I sound. None of this was made up for or exaggerated. Yes, I will continue to break down the game's mechanics and gestalts as if it were a first-person action light RPG, because I don't have any other frame of reference. I have no association with the franchise. I don't know what format the other games took, whether there were RPG mechanics or not. No idea. This is just the tone I get from the mechanical loops in the gameplay from just the first few moments that I had previously played. And if this angers you, please leave a comment at this web zone. Anyways, let's get back to driving real fast. It was at this point that I got sick of vehicles defaulting to playing the in-game radio. I'd gotten into a habit of disabling it as I was afraid of copyright when working on the Source Code series, and while your vehicle defaults to your selected station, every other vehicle does not, so you need to switch it over to the station you want. At this point, I had created a radio station made up of songs I knew wouldn't hit copyright. even though I wasn't recording any gameplay. The entire channel was just Redvox and some YouTube sound library jazz. One bit of polish I actually really like, and I was shocked to see this, was your custom music actually has commercial breaks and hosts. You can disable it if you just want the music, but it is neat. Also, while the number of buildings you can enter is disappointingly low, the ones you can enter have a lot of details that might go unnoticed in other games. You can read most of the items on convenience store shelves. NPCs engage in rather natural conversations. Watching them cut each other off in traffic, super realistic and super interesting. Looking down at the ground and seeing a little outlet to plug things in, you can't touch it, but it's there. For a series that's almost always in third person, it's interesting to see these little details. I'm not sure how many of them were added just because there was a first person mode now, or how many were already there to begin with. There were previous gen versions of this game. I don't know what they look like. But what do you do when your vehicle despawns? If you leave your car idle for too long, it returns to your character's house, which often means that you need to walk back there to get your car. I expected something like this the moment I pulled into a parking space to go into a building to talk to a quest giver. When I came back out, it had been backed in, so now I was facing the other direction. But coping with this bizarre addition was often infuriating. I mean, I could take public transportation, but cabs are unreliable and they cost money to use. I'm not entirely sure if I can take the bus, and even then I'm a victim to the bus route, or I can take the subway. I had done this once before in source code, but I never actually paid it any mind. The moment you start digging into how the subway works, it becomes a mess. I stood at the platform for several minutes trying to read the arrival schedule, and then I realized it was just a texture with a few frames of animation, and no actual information. And then, kind of just as a joke, I started walking along the tracks. Thankfully, the electrical line is overhead, not part of the track like in Chicago, so I wasn't going to get zapped and die immediately just walking down the subway tracks. I was expecting to maybe make it halfway, only to see my train roll past and regret what I did, but I made it to the next station before any train ever did. It was literally faster to walk across the tracks, depending on the situation. This could have been negated if there was a more robust public transit map in the game to show you the bus routes and when to expect the subway, when your next arrival is. But clearly they didn't design the game with the intent that you'd actually use the public transit options as intended. So I get it. It's fine. I understand. I'm indifferent at the moment. Now that I've played it for a day, it's whatever. It's a whole lot of whatever. I guess I'll play a little more tomorrow and try to figure things out from there. So what is the plot of Grand Theft Auto 5? I mean, actually, do I need to say this? How many people actually play this game for its story? I mean, according to Steam here, more people have reached rank 25 in the MMO portion of the game than have completed the jewelry store heist, so I guess that might answer your question. From what I gather, Franklin is a good-natured young man working for an auto dealer. His boss asks him to repossess a car from a mansion downtown, which ends up being the home of former bank robber Michael. Mike's been thought to be dead, but he's actually alive and well on the West Coast, having cashed in his heisting fortune to live a good life. Aside from the fact that his kids hate him and his wife cheats on him and he's in witness protection and everything else. Michael figures he'd teach the wedge in his marriage a lesson and pulls his house down. Except he ends up tearing down the house of a multimillionaire with several mob connections. This ropes Michael and Franklin into having to quickly take up white-collar crimes to appease the people he's wronged. And there's probably other stuff, and this probably isn't even the whole story. We'll talk about it when we get there. I really underestimated how important the pulling the guy's house down was. That just took care of itself, kind of. I know there was a third aspect to the whole single-player experience, and you kind of meet the first two characters in the tutorial. I think I'm still in the tutorial. I have no idea. But I was wondering, where's Trevor? And after playing a jewelry store heist worth a few million, either that other game with the guns and the masks paid out way too little, or this one's paid out way too much, I don't know. But immediately after that mission's over, there he is. And you do a whole lot of shooting with Trevor. You get a sniper rifle, you get a carbine, you pick up an AK and a mini Uzi during your first shootout, and you have an M32 grenade launcher. Neat. Air travel was shockingly easier than I thought it'd be. I mean, it requires use of the number pad to accomplish, which is awful, but from what I've gathered from Jugger Conroy, the last source I expected to use in this video, the gamepad controls for GTA 5 air travel are just as bad, using these shoulder buttons for much of the heavy lifting. I mean, I get it. It's a big game, full of activities, but you have all these buttons, and you make all these choices. WAS and D and mouse for movement are fine, M1, M2 for guns is fine, jump and crouch makes sense, cover and reload, fine. Then you've got the arrow keys that don't get too much use, while the number pad is your flight controls. You have to click the mouse wheel to pull up your phone. You got caps lock for your special, Alt is your character selector. I mean, I could just rebind all this, and I probably should, instead of writing and discussing a paragraph about how much the controls suck. Also worth mentioning that Michael can go to his therapist. Sessions are like 5 minutes long, and you can choose to accept or reject what he's saying, and it has no bearing on gameplay at all. I get the feeling I probably missed a session or two, but at the same time, yeah, I get the feeling that you don't get much for attending all of them. Maybe like a pat on the back, maybe an achievement, maybe it boosts one of Michael's stats. I'm grasping at straws, I have no idea. Also, can't stress this enough. I misunderestimated just how important the "we pulled this guy's house down" side plot was. Like, significantly. I thought that would be like the whole crux of why we're playing. It is not. I mean, maybe I'll learn more about why this game is even like the plot's happening the next time I play. Well, I'll learn more about the plot. What? So, Michael's family hates him. He's blown his cover with the jewelry heist, and now his son's drugged him, stolen his car, and his whole family's moved out. He's all alone. Franklin is contacted by Lester to assassinate some key business owners, and Trevor has wrecked his cousin's apartment to begin working on stealing government intel from a parked freighter. I also got to pilot a submarine. Well, it's about what I expected. It wasn't that bad. I thought it was worth mentioning. Something that's bothering me right now is I can't actually go to Michael's therapist at this point in the game. I mean, he kind of needs a hand at this point, I feel. There's a sequence during the drug coma thing where the aliens kick you out of their UFO, and I have to add a not making this up disclaimer, but I actually don't because 80 million people own this game, so they've probably all seen this scene. And you're free falling towards the ground. I intentionally tried to drop right where the therapist is with the intent I could quickly discuss the issues at hand. I thought like where you land is where you wake up from your trip. That's not how that worked. That's not how any of this worked. I do want to mention the heist real fast. I have no notes for this, so this will be interesting. The jewelry store heist I played yesterday was okay. The actual heist itself is like zero gravitas. You walk in, everybody's unconscious, you just smash the cases, take the stuff, and run. I did this like the stealth way, although I could have done this another way where you just walk in and mow people down. Lester made it sound like I'd make more money doing it this way, because I would have... I'm not going to lose money getting like hit or getting stuff taken from the cops. That is not... I feel like that choice was completely arbitrary in the long run, because for whatever reason, like the whole point is... with the stealth approach, you're going in under the guise of being exterminators, but you still walk in there with assault rifles and one of your guys. And it might just be who I picked. Picks a fight with a meter maid dude. I just bumped the mic, and that causes a whole car chase for no reason. But the actual heist preparation is really the meat and potatoes here. It's what they want you to like. It's what you spend the most time with. And I think that works well, given the fact that this is an open world light RPG. You go around to different places like, oh, we need this van, we need these uniforms, we need to find this chemical. And you're kind of just given those loose ends and some points on the map to go to. And it works from there. And even like the submarine is kind of the same deal. Trevor's working on his own heist, and you have to steal a submarine for one of the approaches. It's sitting on a boat, just hanging off a hook. And I imagine you could probably go on the boat and like fiddle with the controls and drop it into the water and jump in and get on and get in and take it. But there was nothing stopping me from just going there with a suppressed pistol and shooting the cables off of the hook to drop it into the water. In fact, nobody noticed it. I got away without any attention. So that was, neat. This is really, I think, the thing, for better and for worse, that sets Grand Theft Auto's heists apart from that other game. Because the two kind of fought it out for a while. Because both games kind of hit, both Big Bank and this game, the 8th gen version, hit in 2014, and they kind of dueled each other. Payday is just about, here's the mission, all the planning's already been done for you, you can change a couple variables if you want, but other than that, you get in there, you go. You're there for the gunplay, you're there for the fast pace, and you're there for, that kind of horde shooter gameplay. This is an open world game, and rather than focus on the combat, it's focusing on the preparation. And I feel like in online, that could be a problem, but I'm not talking about the online right now, I'm just talking about single player in first person. Still, the prep was interesting. I don't know if I'd play a lot more heist prep, though. It is a little tedious, but it's something, so that's nice. While going about my business today, I saw an armored truck. I didn't think too far ahead. I knew you could open the armored trucks, and I did, and I collected $7,000, and then I died. And then I walked out of the hospital that next afternoon after a $5,000 bill, so I made $2,000. Neat. There's a lot of these like random events scattered throughout the map to participate in, even if you're busy doing something else. So, things like taking out carjackers or muggers, dealing with scammers trying to lure you into a trap, the aforementioned armored truck. They're neat, and I like doing them, but you don't really get many major rewards for them, which again, it kind of feels like it drives my point home that this game is predisposing the player to take the chaotic route over the lawful. It just makes me look like a fool in comparison when I'm trying to do all these good deeds and all you get is a thank you, and then your character goes, nah, don't mention it. And then, if you go and you shoot up the convenience store, you get a bunch of money and this and that. You get to use your guns, you get to drive really fast. I don't know. Well, I've driven a submarine, a plane, a car, and a bike so far, so I hope whatever's next is just as... I really hate helicopters. Maybe it's just the keyboard and mouse controls, but actually moving the things feels dang near impossible. It feels like I'm constantly about to crash into things and explode, and I broke one of the cardinal sins of this playthrough. I did the get the helicopter in position so you can rappel down the building bit in third person. I couldn't manage otherwise. I need to be real. It was miserable. Don't like helicopters. And it's funny because I streamed Black Mesa today, and I had to say the exact same thing. But that's unrelated. Assassination missions. That was something else I did today. They're alright. Lester offers Franklin an opportunity to blow him out of here however he wants, and the first one was nice and easy, barring the fact that I missed the shot 3 times. I hit his bodyguards with one of the rounds though, so I consider that a success. And now Franklin's got a nice house up in the hills to himself. I had to play the torture scene. I think if I just say that sentence alone, pretty much everybody knows what I'm talking about. I needed to cool off, so I just did some shooting range challenges like immediately afterwards, because, oh my god. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I broke the other cardinal sin of this project. I looked up how many story missions there are. I have 21% of the game done according to the stats menu, but I was on story mission 21, and I know there's all sorts of side activities, things like golf, tennis, trading stock, purchasing real estate, eating hallucinogenic cactuses that you find growing in a drainage ditch, typical boomer things. Thought I'd be like halfway through. I figured there'd be between like 40 and 50 6 story missions. There's almost 70. I'm a bit less than a third of the way through. I don't really want to play the whole... I don't want to finish this right now. This is a lot to bite off all in one day. A lot of why I picked up the game's campaign again was I wanted to see what held people's attention for so long, how so many people played so much of this game, how Grand Theft Auto 5 was able to sell more copies than every physical Wii U game combined, why it's had so much cultural staying power. It was Game of the Decade from pretty much every other publication that didn't say Minecraft, and why it won Labor of Love Award on Steam 2 years back-to-back despite major controversies and fan backlashes in those 2 years. I think I get what sold people on this game, but I'd need a day to properly put it to words, if you understand. So, how did Grand Theft Auto 5 become the cultural powerhouse it became? I think I have a few answers that kind of form a bigger picture. First of all, this was like the last major open world game before the start of all this backlash. Oblivion, Fallout 3, New Vegas, The Witcher 3, Skyrim, they all really kind of ushered in this newfound love of the open world. All these incidental moments and oddities scattered throughout a big old chunk of map. I would argue 2015 was kind of the beginning of the end of the trend for a lot of people, with the likes of Fallout 4's lackluster world map, the constant reissuing of Skyrim, which kind of led to that map becoming bland and tired, the Battle Royale genre, turning these tightly designed living worlds into nothing more than a playground, so on and so forth. Now, when Bethesda's like Fallout 76 is 4 times bigger than Fallout 4, nobody's excited. Everybody's upset. There's still outliers, for sure. Breath of the Wild, Red Dead 2, they're both highly regarded games that rely on an open map. But they're not this universally beloved piece of gaming history anymore. We don't really need the open world anymore. Grand Theft Auto 5 hit at that moment where the open world was something gamers enjoyed taking their time to explore, and it came out just before the backlash. This was proving just how powerful current-gen hardware was. But without, wasting the player's time. Secondly, there is a lot to do in this game. While I personally feel that a game like this would be as wide as an ocean but as deep as a puddle, as much as I'd personally just want a dedicated golf game, a dedicated tennis game, a dedicated racing game, a dedicated FPS, for players who only have $60, GTA 5 kind of offers a bit of everything. It was, at the time, and still kind of is, a phenomenal value for the less gaming-aware populace, and its massive marketing push meant that pretty much every home in the game-playing public had a copy. A dad could walk in, see you playing a golf minigame or doing target shooting challenges, and then he'd give it a shot, which would effectively let the game bridge the gap between different generations and sorts of gamers, and in turn it led to a wider word-of-mouth exposure, and that led to more sales. It was kind of doing the VR business model before VR. VR is a thing where you buy Job Simulator, you play it once, and then you show it to a friend, and you show it to a cousin, you show it to an uncle, you bring it to Thanksgiving. You get 8 people to play it, and then by that time, you've gotten enough time clocked into it, and you've gotten to enjoy it, even if you're not playing it, that the purchase feels justified. By having this wide breadth of activities in Grand Theft Auto 5, you kind of get that same experience. It's a game, even somebody who doesn't like the shooting and killing, you can just find a race. Or you can go on the online mode and pick from, there's 200 races. Just pick one. And it's here you go, play a race. You can do that. And 3, most people didn't play the game like how I've played it. I took my time. I sat in traffic if I didn't have a way out of a situation, and I was reading the frickin' referral engine when doing so. I spent the entire time, barring a certain vehicle type, in first person. And I was really playing it like an open world action RPG, a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls. Which, while probably that might be how Rockstar wants some players to go about it, that's not how Rockstar wants a model player to go about it. Let's put it this way. Go talk to anyone who played the hell out of Grand Theft Auto 5, or heck, just punch in the game on YouTube and browse the more popular videos. You find people who would just punch in cheat codes for all the weapons, punch in the code for a vehicle like a tank or a helicopter, and just tear through town, destroying everything in sight. And when they die, they step out of the infirmary and repeat the process. I spent so much time kind of just emptily criticizing the game based on Steve crashing his car into walls for his own amusement and my own detriment, and when I did get to play it, I was too immersed in trying to understand the characters and the world around me, and really, I was supposed to do neither. To quote Steve and George, Grand Theft Auto V is like a giant playground. There's plot there for people who want it, but people who played multiple Grand Theft Autos before this know what to expect. They're not here for a gripping story about how the tech boom in the new 10s paired with a globalist American government is putting foreign nations at risk without any of us knowing. They're not here for a critique on just how tech-savvy we've become while simultaneously understanding less about what powers our favorite tech. They don't care for a story about generational and socioeconomic divides at the height of the recession and how they really changed the nature of crime. They're here to shoot things, they're here to crash cars, and this game, more than others, is about doing all of this with your friends. Grand Theft Auto Online has its own plot and environment changes, but that's beside the point. Getting to street race with your friends, play an arena shooter mode with them, cooperate to rob a bank, all in the same game, while fully showing off the technology of 8th gen consoles while doing it, was more than enough to hook millions and millions of people into playing the online. And they play enough of it and feel like they've gotten their money's worth, so if they throw Rockstar a few extra dollars, it doesn't hurt them. They're supporting developers they like, even though this game was built out of a whole crunch culture. And I would reckon to believe it's still under constant crunch because this game is still horrendously popular. But that's beside the point. There's more people here for the online multiplayer than the campaign, and getting access to that freeform do-whatever sandbox environment with a crew of up to over a dozen friends. Up to 30 people can play the online. That was more than enough to push the game into people's hands. At the end of the day, I get it. I truly get it. Grand Theft Auto V is a bit more complex than I gave it credit for. But it's one of those games where you really just have to find your own fun. And I've kind of been over open worlds for a while, I'll be honest. I like that you can go 100 miles an hour in this open world. I'm sick of walking halfway across the map in like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. So that's nice. But there's only so many times I can push a guy down a mountain in Skyrim, or only so many times I can use shotgun slugs made of gold coins in New Vegas before I'm putting the game down for a few months. Whereas with linear campaign games, I can blitz through them in a few days, and if I particularly enjoyed them, I can go back for seconds, or try to find new ways to spice up the experience. Grand Theft Auto V did earn its place in history, for sure. I'm just not sure how much I particularly enjoyed my time with the game from this experiment. Meanwhile, there's been like an online event happening where you get $1 million in one week and you get $1 million in another, and there was a Twitch Prime bonus. So I've been playing the online stuff just solo, and it is kind of just that refined do whatever, and it's endearing. There was like a bunch of collectathon stuff, like a bunch of action figures and playing cards. I spent 4 hours trying to find all those action figures. 2 of them won't spawn. So I can't complete that. Because you need to collect 98 to collect the last 2. I've only got 96, and I've explored the whole map. I had a checklist. I went through it all. That sucks. But whatever. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Whatever the case, I thought it was worth sharing my 7-day adventure with you guys. And I hope you enjoyed getting to see a game like this looked at from another angle. Please. Like, don't judge things from how it looks on the outside. That concludes this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, I'd recommend subscribing. Patreon and social media links are in the description.